So, Rachel, we've known each other for over a year now.
Yeah.
You've been working with Woman's Wealth because they had a bunch of things on your mind, and I'll let you tell us what they were when you met us. But interestingly, I wonder whether you remember what the first thing you said to me was?
No, I cannot remember. Remind me.
Okay, so when I first met you, you said, I want to live like I'm on holiday, having just come back from a great one.
What an excellent vision, North Star to aim for. I like that version of Rachel. I still agree with that completely. Excellent.
I don't know whether you can remember the holiday now, over a year on, and like life doing what it does to us, but you clearly had a fantastic holiday and were thinking,
Yeah, yes. And life could be like this more, and I would like to make this so. Yeah, yes. I think, well, I guess holidays, they are a time for reflection, and it's a time to have the mental and emotional space and the fun to think, actually, yeah, well, I can do things differently. And how do I start that process? So yeah, I can imagine, even though I don't remember the phrase that you just reminded me of, I can see how I would come back from holiday and want to grasp that nettle. And it did feel like a nettle. Searching online to find the right, financial advisor. Yeah, that was, I probably have tried to do it around 10 times.
Right, okay. I did not know that.
Yep.
On this occasion, it was coming back from holiday thinking, you know what, if I really want that, I'm going to have to put some action in. So
yeah.
What you searched online, you say, and
yes.
What did you search for?
So I'm part of a kind of coaching group. We all coach each other, and they're all really grounded, wonderful women. They're all women. And I started talking, and some of them are older than me. So that was really helpful. One of them in particular had sort of modeled the way to a really good retirement, down to thinking about the party she was going to plan for herself. So it was beginning to, discussions about financial security and retirement were beginning to enter my life more. So instead of kind of being in my 30s and just thinking, oh God, I really wish I'd started a pension earlier, and those 4 o'clock in the morning thoughts, which were happening more and more frequently. And then I started seeing people that I knew taking action. So I started talking to them about it. They had a sort of different financial profile, and some of their, wealth advisors weren't quite appropriate for me, but they flagged to me that there were financial advisor specialists that were women, and that worked to support and enable women to make financial choices. So I think that was a big turning point, because I hadn't realized that I could sort of lean into, an expert that knew, that focused on helping women. So that dissolved a really big barrier. And so with some female support and learning that people like you existed, then I got online and started searching about. I read reviews, and this was another kind of a bigger step than I'd taken before as well, which, previously I would have searched online for 10 minutes going, oh, I can't find anybody, run away. But then I listened to one of your podcasts, and I thought this woman, Sam, is the real deal, and sounds like a person that I could talk to, pragmatic, knowledgeable, female. And yeah, so it was probably, online searching, but then listening to the podcast as well. It felt all completely relatable. Mm-hmm. And so it just broke down those barriers that had built up in my head for decades. I mean, literally, I've been worrying about my finances for decades. In different degrees, but definitely, it tapping away at the back of my mind, going, what are you going to do about this, Rachel? Take charge.
Mm.
And I didn't know how, and I kind of didn't want to turn towards it.
Well, I'm glad you did. And thank you for helping other women take that step by doing the podcast with me today, because
It's coming full circle, isn't it? I mean, somebody, actually, I can't remember which person it was that the podcast I listened to, but yeah. So yeah, this is kind of.
Hopefully you'll be able to, as you say, be that stepping stone for.
I hope so. I really hope so.
And I also love the fact that it was part of being a female coaching and support group that encouraged you to take action as well, because that's something at Women's Wealth we're very sure of, that women like to collaborate. We like to support and help each other and rise up together.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
A community feel here as well. So
yeah, and that appeals as well. I just felt like I'd made a good choice, landed in the right place. You can tell really quickly, I think, generally.
That's good to know as well. First impressions and that early part of the journey. What do you remember about it, that early part of the journey?
The mental anguish I put myself through before I actually got online with you. There's a lot, I think, from what I've said so far. I was anxious about it. And while I was pleased that I was taking a positive step, I was also worried what fact finding, what recommendations you would make after the fact finding process that I was fairly sure we'd go through. So fear was the first one beforehand. And then actually to be online with you, having a conversation, it wasn't, I mean, you clearly had, a sequence, a set of questions that you took me through, but it felt very conversational. It felt very personable. And I found myself, being able to think and respond in the present in a very truthful way, rather than saying what I thought I should say to a big, scary financial advisor. Yes, because you're not that. You're not a big, scary person. and actually, the conversation and your approach helped me relax. There was I guess this is the other thing. There was about your personable approach, and you were genuinely interested in me. I guess one of the other fears that I was having, that I might get reprimanded or tutted at or something like that. There's all this sense of, the voice in my head was, oh, you should have done lots of shoulds and whatevers, should have done this earlier. You've really been a bit rubbish about your finances, all that internal castigation. And so I thought that might be manifested in reality from you, and it couldn't have been further from the truth. I did that all by myself, that castigation, and actually it was very restricting, deeply restricting. Yeah.
It becomes a self-limiting state, doesn't it? The way you can't really get out of it if you're afraid that you're going to be judged or criticized.
Yeah. I was afraid to know the reality of my finances. I was afraid what the authoritarian figure, would say. And none of that came to pass at all.
And I think it's really important, and I just really want to iterate for anybody who's thinking about taking financial advice, that most of the women that we encounter who come to us with this feeling of like, I should have done more. It feels like I missed the lesson on this, and there's a blanket of shame which we just don't deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, yes. So when I was researching online about, and I found Women's Wealth, and then looked at the different offers that you have, and, one was the thing that I ended up signing up to was this sort of ongoing, you talked about a coaching approach, and really, shoring me up, educating me to make my own decisions, which really appealed, rather than handing over responsibility to somebody else. Yeah, I guess part of me just wanted to chuck it at you, going, here, please sort this out for me. But actually, the offer of like, we can break this down into achievable chunks and you can learn, Rachel, to not be dependent on you solely. That was very attractive too.
Really should never be the case that we're doing anything to you or for you. We're here to do it with you.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's yours, and you will live the consequences of these decisions. So they have to be yours, really.
Yes.
Yes, we want to be here as the expert in the mix to guide you, to help you reframe thinking, to help you learn about things which will give you better outcomes and opportunities. But you're going to have to say whether you're walking into that or not.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
For us to do it to you.
Yeah, and I think my biggest learning. My biggest learning in those conversations was be as honest as you possibly can, Rachel. Again, around the shame, there's a lot of sort of, I don't know, minimizing or falling back into that classic female role of, just being satisfied, always wanting to smooth things over, always wanting to please, being satisfied with what you're given rather than interrogating it. And you really encouraged, to step out, to take that classic, gender stereotypical role away, just dissolve that. Let's just start with a blank sheet of paper and the honest, truth and what I really wanted. And again, that's quite an interesting question for any woman to be asked, what do you really want? You, for your life, what do you want?
Society expects of you.
Yeah,
not what
absolutely.
You think you should, but that's what you really want.
Yes. And I certainly didn't, other than my holiday comments.
I'm on holiday.
Yeah. Normally, it takes me quite a while to quieten all the other voices to really tune into what is it that you do want, Rachel? Because it's not the first thing that comes to mind.
No. So as we took you through the financial planning journey, so we're super nosy in the beginning, aren't we? Because we have to learn about you. So we have to help you get the information to us that's going to help us in the end come to you with solutions chosen specifically to meet your requirements. So we don't apologise necessarily for that bit, but I don't think it's easy on you as a member providing all that information in the first place. How did you find that?
I thought it was, I found it easier than I had initially thought it would be, because the things that you asked me to do was kind of checking on the state of my state pension contributions and the pension pots that I had around. So, I had to liaise with official bodies to find out information. And so I was thinking, government's websites are really difficult. That was wrong. The government website was super easy to, astonishingly easy to use. There's online portals, for pension providers, which were pretty straightforward. So what I thought was quite a hefty admin burden on me. And I am a person that I don't like nobody likes admin, but I make it worse by suffering. I add suffering onto my admin burden. And actually, once I got on with it, I got through it really fast. It was much more straightforward. The information was much more accessible.
I think that's something that we like to hear again, is that we encourage members to be in touch with the resources that will help them
Yeah.
monitor their investments.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Gateways.
Yeah, because before, again, that would be another thing that I would know that was there, but I wouldn't engage with. Oh my goodness, there's an annual statement from my pension provider. Well, if I open that, I'm just going to get upset, or it's just going to tell me I don't have enough money, and then I'm going to worry. I wasn't quite as bad as not opening mail, but it was never a pleasant experience. I had attached a lot of negative emotions to the entire thing.
And you are not the only one. That is, it's actually a really quite normal say. If you've never actually felt that you've got the confidence and control over it, then it just becomes a bigger and bigger bloody obstacle.
It does. It just got bigger and bigger.
Its legs and arms, and it's like, oh, it's just a monster sat in the corner, isn't it? So
absolutely. Yep.
I was pleased to be part of like taking that apart for you and getting this, what is effectively an audit done. But if you break it down into bite-sized chunks, once you've done it, all the information's in one place.
Yes.
And then we had the experience this year, didn't we, of reviewing what we've done. And of course, it's that much easier once you've kind of got it.
Now it's fine, and the process of doing the initial audit has it's made kind of subtle and maybe low level, but quite daily, or changes that I view my finances, my daily financial activity. It's just cast them in a slightly different light. I guess I feel more in the driving seat of it. I'm a bit more aware. And again, rather than trying to sort of make financial thoughts just go away as quickly as possible, I'm happy to spend a bit of time with them and go, oh, okay, well, this has happened. And I'm trying to think of an example. Unfortunately, I can't. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Considering and have come up again in the annual review were things like, do I invest? And if I do, is it pension, ISA, or do I decrease my mortgage? And it's that balancing act, isn't it? So
yeah.
And I think you'd gotten in a loop when we first met you where you went, oh, I can't decide, so I'm not going to do anything.
Well, yeah. And actually, this is a game changer in our conversations. And I think it took several sessions for me to truly believe it. And this was about my mortgage, because there's so much pressure. And I think it's a kind of English thing or a British thing about, getting a mortgage is an excellent thing. And then you slowly pay it down until there's none left. And I guess it's because it's the most tangible thing in my life. I live in my house. So there was that sense of, well, the mortgage is the most significant financial engagement. And because my property is in London, I viewed it as an investment, and it is an investment, but it's not the kind of the big thing in my financial planning. And I always thought it would be, and have kind of, always had the mindset of pay down the mortgage, get rid of it as quickly as possible. And when you first said that it didn't have to be that way, it kind of blew my mind. And I sat with it for a bit, and then I was like, oh, it was that there was that kind of struggle between what you were telling me and what I'd been brought up to believe. But that's been a game changer, just kind of reprioritizing where my mortgage sits within my overall kind of portfolio. Makes it sound grand, and it's not really grand. It's just, a set of financial things that, are in my life that I can dial up or dial down or pay into or not. In the case of paying down my mortgage faster, I've decided not to do that. Yeah.
what were the driving factors in the end which made you go, okay, I'm going to do it the other way?
I remember talking to you about the tangibility of the mortgage. I can't remember the exact criteria that you and I went through that helped me arrive at the point of, I don't need to pay off this mortgage, and actually my investments are a better place for my money. I can't remember the exact criteria, but we had discussed, it was, we talked about, did I want to stay in this house? Is this my forever home? And the answer to that is no. And was I going to move out of London? And the answer to that is yes. And, beginning to those, you asked the right questions to help me unpack the situation. And then it was like, well, if I'm not, one, we ascertained that I had enough, in a couple of pension pots and the investment projections that we'd done together. So I think it was that evidence-based, that financial planning that allowed me to look at the mortgage and go, okay, well, then paying it down becomes less of an issue. So it was a kind of shift in focus and getting more into the detail of how the investments were going to work, and that phased approach that you introduced to the investment pots. And when we draw them down, when I draw them down, you didn't really factor my mortgage into any of those. And at first I was really surprised, because I thought that was the biggest thing, the most important thing. So it was when you kind of, phased out the different investments, and when they would kind of, be delivering the greatest returns, and when I could draw down on them, and all of a sudden the mortgage just became much less important. So it wasn't a process of focusing on the mortgage and trying to sort of dissuade me to stop focusing on it. You were just like, well, look at this though, look at this picture over here. And, there was graphs and projections, and it all made complete sense. So it was really moving towards a different form of investment rather than having to let go of the mortgage. It just became less important when I could see the fuller picture that you helped me understand.
And I think that is the value, isn't it, of talking to somebody who's going to help you think outside your own box.
Yes. Very much so.
Having that other input. I mean, you could still pay your mortgage down if you want to, but the point is, when we did the sums, it doesn't work out to be the best idea, or use resources. So why would you? So as you say, like once you understood the numbers, it was like, that doesn't seem such a great idea now.
Exactly. And I never would have got there on my own, ever. And I would have, just kind of...
Don't criticise yourself for that, because as you say, we're brought up to like take debt out to the hilt with your first mortgages, and then spend the rest of your life trying to get rid of it. It's kind of like, it's the British mentality, isn't it, of owning our castles.
Absolutely.
It's not always the best use of your assets.
Yep.
It is a question of like, don't criticise yourself for that. It's a massive cultural message.
It really is. It's practically in our DNA. So that was huge. That was a real, turning point.
Yeah. And I'm pleased that we were able to contribute to it.
Oh, not contributed it. You helped it. Yeah. Without your input, I as I say, I really cannot imagine I would have managed to, get out of that classic mindset of pay down the mortgage.
Another thing that I remember was very much in the conversation, and it's something that I know a lot of women are kind of dealing with, is is self-employment an option for me? Is it a good idea? Would I be better off, worse off? Could I stand the insecurity of it? And I know that was, I think it was The Holiday that had done it. It's like...
Yes. the mark of a good holiday. I need to stop working quickly. Yeah, and I was considering, freelance, setting up as a consultant. I'd reached that point where, yeah, it was definitely an option. Um, and but then again, well, yeah, it was an option in principle. And again, going into the detail, which you helped me really unpack, um, talking that through, maybe modeling what that might look like in terms of, this is the income, and we even got down to how much are you planning on charging per hour? And, what does that mean for your working days a year? And yeah, pensions and all sorts of things. And actually, I ended up kind of deciding against that. I mean, it's always there, it's an option, but I ended up kind of, changing jobs. And I guess, I think probably the reason why I was thinking about, maybe going freelance was that I maybe reached the end of the road at that particular role that I was in. And so, yeah, really looking into the detail of what being self-employed truly means.
I mean, it has advantages, but it also
very illuminating. Yeah, absolutely. It does have advantages. And I think, and I am a glass half full person, so I'd sort of made myself aware of the advantages, but hadn't really gone into the detail. Again, in the detail, it's the finances and it's the paperwork isn't right, but it's that detail that isn't my comfort zone. So again, I really welcomed the support in going through that process.
And we were glad again to be. We like to call ourselves your best financial friend. Like we say on the website, we just want to be there for people, so that they've got a sounding board and a discussion partner.
Yeah, I would say you live up to that, definitely. Good. Yeah,
good. So, what was the worst part of the journey?
Probably not finding you, but definitely the earliest of stages, probably before that initial meeting, because of what it had become in my head. So again, it's all down to, the fact that we're not really encouraged, women are not, or people generally, but I think especially women, not encouraged to take charge of our finances, or not encouraged, and also not enabled. We just don't know what the tools are to do it, and a sense of shame. So yeah, you had nothing to do with the hardest bit. The hardest bit was all in my head.
Okay.
And as literally 5 minutes into the call, that began to ebb away.
That's such a nice thing to hear. And anyone who's listening, I hope that they will kind of take the plunge and realise we're the solution, not an extension of the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just that sense of being completely seen and understood, not a million miles away from the sound of a tut or anything like that. All my fears would just belong to somewhere else. It starts to dissolve as soon as the conversation starts with you.
I do remember that we had a tough time getting one of your pensions transferred.
Yep.
And we ended up having to advocate for you and put in a complaint because they had just so abused their position and not done as they were instructed, and it ended up costing you money.
But you managed to secure compensation. And again, if that had been me going up, well, as would have been in my head, going up against, a big pension provider, I might have been a bit too intimidated to do it. I might have been a bit too, or told myself I was too busy to do it. Or wouldn't have the right words, the right financial phrases to be able to explain the situation. So again, that kind of, shoulder to shoulder, my best financial friend doing that for me, was brilliant, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that as being probably the hardest bit for us in terms of the process, because it was just we were so out of our control. Well, the only thing we could do was complain and hold them to account.
Yeah, but you were tenacious. I mean, yeah, again, I think if I had had the wherewithal to even start the process, I might have given up. And you guys weren't.
Bank on that.
Yeah, yes, I was beginning to get that impression. And actually, all those weeks and I think months down the line, when you popped up, were like, we've sorted it. I was pretty amazed, actually. Again, I guess that speaks to my lack of trust of financial institutions as well, maybe. It's not that I don't trust pension providers, but I don't know, they're just kind of these, had I ever sat down and had a face-to-face conversation with a pension provider at that particular place? No, I hadn't. So they were this faceless, big thing that there was just like no purchase to get into, to have a personable, human-centered conversation. I really would have given up, and I'm really glad
we were
that you
pleased to be
didn't.
able to get that settlement for you.
Absolutely.
And do our bit there. I wanted to just make the point as well that when we've been working with you, we've noticed that you've shifted to quite a kind of risk-on behaviour with your investing. So you start, to be honest, when we did some risk profiling with you, you came out as very risk tolerant and aware anyway. But then, initially you kind of didn't know how to start this.
Yes.
But as we've gone on, you've gone, actually, this is, let's do it. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, I guess that comes from, the proof points that you have, that I've experienced in working with you. So that builds trust. I've built my understanding. And the financial portal, that we've got set up now, I can just pop in and look at what's happening. So, and I do understand it. I don't do a deep dive into all the different, things that are in the sort of parcel of investments, but I can see the overall performance. And again, probably for the first few months, I didn't pop into the portal and see what was happening. There was that fear. But then I started doing it. And I was like, oh, this is quite easy. And I like it, So I began to trust it more. And so there was trust in you, proof points along the way, and I'm sort of educating myself more through the online platform that exists. So again, fear just melting away.
The last time we met, you said even if we drew a line here, I sleep better at night already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in your review meeting.
Yeah, I would. And, I think we probably achieved that state at the end of, quite sort of the start period where it's all that discovery period. You said, right, Rachel, go off and we need to find about this, this, and this. And I came up with all the information. And then you guys took it away for a good couple of weeks and we had the review meeting. And one of the very first things you said was, it's okay, Rachel, you're going to be okay. You have enough. And at one level, job done. Yes, and that's when I could have gone, oh, thank you very much, and then just go. But then again, back to fear. That made the fear go away. It's like, right, okay. So now all the conversations are not fear-based, not fear of the unknown. I now know, and it's good news. And so what can we do with this now that I can?
What are my choices?
What are my choices? Yeah. And, if for people listening, it's not like I've got the best pension pot in the world. It's not one of those amazing kind of civil service type pensions or anything like that. But, and it might have not been the most straightforward financial jigsaw for you guys to put together to think, right, how are we going to make this work for Rachel within that time span? I was said, I want to retire at 60, and so it wasn't straightforward, but yeah, it was those incremental steps. But to be able to hear, it's okay. You have enough. We can make, you can make this work, Rachel. That was it. That opens up a whole new vista and a whole new ability of my willingness to learn about finances, because it's not scary anymore.
Okay. Well, it's lovely. It's lovely to hear that that's where you've got to in the kind of year that we've been working together. So thank you very much for sharing it as well, because I really hope that somebody listening is going to do as you did and take the step towards undoing the fear and shame and getting on with taking control of their financial future. The podcast is called Her Fabulous Financial Future. And if your journey is inspiration for just one other person, then our job is done here, isn't it, this afternoon? So
absolutely. Just I wish everybody would. I really do. And as you know, I've recommended you to several of my friends, and I continue to do so.
Thank you.
I will happily do so. Yeah.
I think there's lots of women who need to do this for themselves.
It's you make it such a personable journey. And it's just, and now it's just a nice, good thing, and it's a reassuring thing compared to where it was to where it is now, just night and day, actually. Really cool.
Okay. Thank you very much for spending some time with me this afternoon.
It's a pleasure.
I look forward to seeing you at the next review to see what's happening next in your life.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. I look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you for asking me, because it is really important, and I hope it does help.